Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to LCK Spring 2020. I'm Atlas, and I'm joined by special guest Chobra here tonight for what could be the final game of the night. It's so sad. I feel like we're not going to get enough value out of having Chobra here by my side. What is it going to be, like 7 games if KT wins right here? Nowhere near enough. This is basically 2 best of 3s. What the heck?
It does feel like it, though. We've had some quick games. We definitely haven't had too many long ones. We've had a couple quick ones, and of course, in that last one, KT just dominating in commanding fashion against this kind of. I'm just gonna say it. The shaky-looking Afreeca Freecs, right? There's no way around it.
Yeah, they're certainly not looking like the team that had absolutely crushed the Casper Cup. That was looking like, I toted them as being the favorites for the start of the split. I look stupid, but yeah, that's okay. I'm a play-by-play, allowed to look a little bit stupid here, but they certainly did look dominant. But something has gone wrong. There's been like a screw loosened or something like that over at the Afreeca camp, and once again, it feels like they haven't quite figured out their roster and who they want to be. To be starting for this team or anything like that. So it's a little bit sad to see out of a team that feels like they won the offseason, right? Like Mystic, despite going 0-4-0 in the last game, did have some very, very good performances earlier on. And Aiming is going to pick up player of the game. I voted for Kuro. I'm okay with voting for Kuro, but you can understand why Aiming picked this one up, because he was the kid on the go-kart that just looked like he was having the greatest of all times. And did play very, very well and very aggressively in this early game.
Yeah, there's no doubt Aiming played well. I'll be honest. So I voted for Aiming, but as soon as you mentioned Kuro, I was like, you're right. And I'm going to be real sad, actually, if Aiming got it. With
imagine if it's like the 5 out of 9. Oh, no.
I would feel bad for Kuro. But all in all, I think both of them really stood out. Everyone played well on KT. I would say both of them stood out in what they were supposed to offer, right? Aiming, obviously, with the damage, and then Kuro just with really more than anything, I think the CC, not so much the tankiness, because that was all around. But the crowd control and also positioning that Galio was able to offer.
Oh, 6 out of 9 you saved. Never mind, you saved. I'm the only mid lane vote, though, so how embarrassing. How embarrassing.
Well, no, I think that's a little concerning. I just don't think there's enough credit to Kuro. I would have expected it to either be Aiming or Kuro, so...
Well, I hope that it's going to be something that I'm not going to be punished for in the post-match thread or anything like that. Is having a look at some of the stats here for Aiming on Ezreal. He's just good at Ezreal, guys. The old 38-425, not too bad.
Wow.
And his damage, 782 average damage per minute. Is that seriously it? That's insane.
And then the 90% kill participation now after that last game, and up to 41% of the team damage dealt within KT. So Aiming, in terms of damage, obviously with the help of his team, but kind of single-handedly carrying the team to victory here.
Well, it just shows that he is certainly paving his way for being one of those Ezreal players that we talk about in the same breath of like Teddy, of Ruler, of Deft, like these all-time great AD carry players. And Aiming is stepping up there. I mean, he was the guy that was making all the weird, dumb decisions on Ezreal last year, and now he's just hard carrying, and you can see that in the statistics here. And like we were talking about earlier on, Chobra, stats don't lie. The numbers, they tell the truth. True. And what happened in this last game? They told the truth. And what are they going to do in the next one? We'll have to see, but I assume they're going to tell the truth again.
I would assume so, one way or the other. I was gonna say it makes me a little sad that as soon as you mentioned, it's in the same vein of other players, and then in my head the first name that popped up was Prey, but these days I guess it's Teddy and Ruler, and the other guys. So,
I mean, Bang was the other one. Bang was the other Ezreal player, man,
True.
but he's now on Evil Geniuses in North America, so you can't talk about him anymore. Still, I think that Bang is another one of those players that does have that Ezreal legacy. I mean, if you're talking about it, I mean, there's Wei Zhao to be spoken about as well, as far as the best Ezreals in the world, but it's been a while since Wei Zhao has played.
That's a real throwback.
Yeah, certainly is, and also for a different region. So.
Very true.
Well,
So
we
we're
are going.
looking
We're jumping straight into the pick and ban here. As Senna and Aphelios already banned by KT. Afreeca taking away the Varus and the Azir. They don't want to see a Varus. They don't want to see that one ever again. They're going to be banning the Ornn, and KT are going to be free to take away the Kalista unless they want to deny Set from Afreeca. That's going to be the interesting thing. I think Kalista is certainly the ban that you are going to go for here. I don't think that you could ever risk leaving that up, as they are going to agree with me and take that one away. So, phew. I wasn't made to look silly.
Saved by that ban. And I think it's a fair ban, not only because of what Kid Kalista can offer, but also, again, just taking a little bit of that power away from Mystic. I think Mystic, and this is throughout his career, quite frankly, has always been a player who... there's certain champions in certain playstyles that just work for him, whereas other times he's not able to do as much when he has to kind of change something about his play to fit the current composition or the meta. So that's a double hit against Afreeca Freecs, and then Olaf being secured for KT alongside that Nautilus.
Yeah, so Nautilus being locked in is actually surprising to me, because I feel like having the Yuumi Olaf available, it is a really powerful combo to take. But Yuumi can be abused in lane, as we saw in the last game, and it looks like KT do not want to be alongside that, as Set and Renekton being hovered here for the next 3 seconds, and he's going to be locked away. There is a lot of physical damage already, potentially coming out of the solo lanes, but Jelly could be piloting that Set, and especially if we see a Kai'Sa locked in here, that is a bottom lane that Griffin certainly loves to play, and despite their losing a lot recently, that bottom lane has worked out for them. So we'll see what they do decide to do now with 5 seconds to go.
There you go.
Oh wow, look at me.
See, doing real well so far in this in these bans and picks. And then Kai'Sa coming out, I would like to see that Set go bottom, and potentially that Renekton being left open as a flex. I'm just a little worried about that Renekton going in mid lane for Fly. It just doesn't seem so great. Lucian being hovered as a potential fight against that. Whoa!
Oh man, this is the old counter to the Kai'Sa, but we might have we have Space Vayne versus regular Vayne.
I love it.
As Aiming locks that one in, and man, Aiming's feeling himself today. I mean, getting out the Vayne picks, that is a surefire way of knowing that a player's feeling it.
Yeah, very, very much so, and I think he has the right to do that, right? Given the performance so far today, and also just where he is as a player these days. So aiming with the Vayne, and I think this is something that a lot of people also just generally want to see from the LCK. Again, a little bit more of that confidence, that aggression in that bottom lane to command the flow of the game, rather than relying on just grander objectives as the only path to victory.
Yeah. And so this could be the Vayne into Kai'Sa, which we've seen be popular. That is certainly an option. But Vayne into Set is another possibility. So we don't necessarily know where that Vayne is going just yet. And with Kuro hovering the Lucian first, it's almost like a mind game that KT are playing, with the Vayne possibly heading towards that top side. So we'll just have to hold on to our assumptions for a little while longer before that one is confirmed. Elise to be taken off the board here. Spirit not going to be playing one of his favorite junglers, as the LeBlanc is taken away from Kuro. Expecting Zoe to be banned next by the Afreeca Freecs, but there's the Sejuani ban. Trying to get rid of that as far as Spirit's wheelhouse. And he did have a pretty good Sejuani game despite losing it in their match yesterday, as the Kennen taken away from Soan. So it looks like Afreeca didn't quite catch on to where that Vayne might be going. Or maybe I'm just insane. I'm not entirely sure.
Well, I think also just Kennen being a common consideration for Sohan. I think they're just trying to keep that out. And we're going to see the Gnar come out right away. So that should be an indicator for the Vayne going bottom, unless we're going to see some craziness that probably wouldn't do KT any good.
Yep. And also, I mean, the bottom lane could already be there for Afreeca, so the Gnar is just, it works into both Renekton and the Set that Afreeca have already shown, and is a decent blind pick there as well. So I don't mind aiming securing that for Soan, and Soan's a pretty good Gnar player anyway. And we'll see how he decides to build as well, because Blade of the Ruined King now getting a couple of buffs mostly for melee champions, but you are melee some of the time as Mega Gnar, so you might be able to get a bit more value out of that. As our Mystic locks away the Trundle for Spirit, and now Jelly to round out this roster.
Now, what's it going to be? Okay, it is going to be that mid lane, so we should be seeing that Renekton go top and the set coming down to support if that's locked in, and that's going to be Syndra. And I feel like this is a welcome change for Fly and what he might be able to do in this game against KT. He's always had to kind of play a more passive lane on top of his style, but also because he's always had these picks that weren't able to get a huge advantage unless you were very, very mechanically ahead of your opponent. And so with the Syndra, if he's got the combos down, obviously it has a little bit of range, but is at risk, especially with a jungler like Olaf, especially post 6, right? Not going to be afraid of just jumping right in for a game.
Yeah, and Olaf is now going to be paired with this Taric as well, which is a really great combo. So Tucson, despite not having Callista available, is still going to be picking up the fabulous man towards the bottom side of the map, and it will be that combo that we were talking about, Vayne versus Space Vayne, and the Vayne Taric is going to attempt to go up against the unorthodox, we might say, set support that Jelly has decided to go with. And Keen on the Renekton into the Gnar. It's a decent matchup there for Soan, and Kuro is going to be on his mid lane Nautilus that he loves so much.
Yeah, and that should be the thing that spells trouble for Fly. I mean, you can try to poke him down a little bit early on, but that timing will not last long enough. And once again, KT is kind of putting all their eggs in the basket for Vayne, which I guess if you're playing Vayne on your team, you might as well, right? It is kind of an all-in pick on its own to begin with. And they're going to have to make sure it works once again. This is still going to require teamwork. We keep playing up KT, but this type of composition is definitely one that can fall with just one mistake, right? Or one mistake per fight. One person just not being in the right place, and the whole thing falls apart compared to a little bit more of a balanced composition coming out from Afreeca Freecs.
Yeah, I actually don't mind Afreeca's comp whatsoever, and I think going back to basics is a good idea after a loss and when you're reeling a little bit with your most recent results. So I don't mind it here. I think that Afreeca's composition, it runs the risk a little bit of falling behind as the game goes on, because unless Keen gets a lead, he is going to be a bit of a dead weight come end of the game, and Bono has the Taric, he has the Bastion available to help him cling on to relevance as this game goes on. Oftentimes you talk about the Olaf being one of these decaying champions, as our friend LS would say, but Taric sort of gives him that ability to stick to his opponents and have that extra durability thanks to the Bastion that he picks up. So I don't mind this KT composition as it moves into the later stages of the game, but we'll just have to see how it goes. Not to mention Nautilus in mid lane can fall off a little bit as well.
True.
But Afreeca don't necessarily have that late game scaling draft, and with Space Vayne and regular Vayne, the scaling is pretty much moot between the two, even though they do have very different modes as we get later. And I guess you could argue that regular Vayne probably hard scales a little bit later into the game, given the fact that the true damage out of the Silver Bolts is so incredibly valuable. But we'll just have to see how things play out. Both of these teams with abilities to fight around mid to late game that are at around similar levels. So I think the statistic that we were looking at before with the lead at 15 minutes playing so much of a part to the victories for both of these teams, I think that's even more prevalent here in this game.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Given the compositions like you mentioned, of course, we saw that the Omni Stone being picked up for Set in that support role. So we'll see how much he can make use of that. He does have the Glacial to begin with. Not going to be able to use it too well, but maybe just to cycle it, I might try something cheeky here. Of course, it runs the risk of getting stunned by Taric. Something I wanted to mention is just the lack of range from both teams, which it seems unfortunate, but then on the side of KT, as long as the Olaf doesn't fall too behind, I mean, you don't need range when you're able to run into the enemy team, and then, of course, the Nautilus ultimate as well.
Yeah, I don't know why Tucson just put his face into Jelly there. Got it broken just a little bit. But I think KT can capitalize on the enemy having low range more than they can fall susceptible to not having the range themselves. His Spirit is going to find Soan. He's holding onto the pillar. Actually, I don't know whether he didn't have it off cooldown.
Yeah,
never mind.
I don't think Spirit had it available, given just level 2, right? So just coming through, probably has the W in the Q for now. I think just
yes, that's true.
Given the pathing they had, I think he was able to steal the red buff as well. so that just taking the wins where they can.
Yeah, I
so
think trading red buffs there, or did Spirit start red? I'm actually just trying to remember. I think
Spirit
the steal
started
did come
red.
in from Spirit. Nice work. The old buff to enemy buff. Not bad. And that will deny Bono. And Bono does want to be hard farming his own jungle in the earlier stages, just to try and get that advantage. As Keen playing aggressively here against Sohan. Good to see. And still able to hold on to a bit of a CS advantage. He had this in game number 1, remember. So it's not the end of the world for KT fans, as Bono going to move into the mid lane and look to try and help Kuro get a bit of a shove here, maybe buy a back timing for him, as Bono's Olaf is certainly one of his favorite picks. He's on a couple of comfort picks so far here today, and it has worked out relatively well.
Yeah, I mean 65% is definitely a healthy win rate for for a champion you like playing. They'll trade the Scuttles on the top and the bottom. But I think, Spirit really taking advantage of the slight lead he had, and they're actually going to run into each other. Spirit with the double buff, though, gets spotted by the ward, so Bono maybe just trying to steal a couple, doing what he can, because, again, he realizes that he's been a bit set behind just a bit. So Bono has to make sure this trend doesn't continue. Otherwise, again, that Olaf's going to have some trouble being a threat. Not necessarily useless, but being a threat at all going into that mid.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. As he's going to go back to base, he picks up his skirmishing saber, and he's going to look to try and affect the rest of the map. Having a look at the picks here for Afreeca Mystic with his first Kai'Sa of the season. But of course, when he was over in the LPL, certainly played a lot of Kai'Sa over his most recent season with WE. And Jelly is 1-0 on the set support, so 100% win rate. Hell yeah. Kuro 3-0 on this Nautilus pickup, and Tucson 3-0 on the Taric. Taric pretty good at the moment because it's paired all the time with the very, very strong Callista. But still, it's not to say that Tucson can't just play the champion really well just by himself.
Yeah, and actually looking at the compositions a little further, I think this one for aiming does have to rely on himself a little more, as we actually see a gank come in. No stun, though.
Yeah, the dazzle didn't quite work out there, as double undertow does come in. Jelly tries to move out to the side to try and pick up that face breaker, but doesn't get it, as Keen is going to turn up, gets himself a really good stun, but not going to be able to find too much more, as now aiming gets exhausted, but looks for the silver bolts, as Sohan in amongst 4 members, but they will be able to grab the first blood, and Sohan very close to getting the Mega Gnar, and the heals come in as he gets the Bastion from the Taric. The flash in, the flash condemned down from aiming, and he will be able to help get this kill as well. No wallop to come down onto Spirit, and that is going to save his life, but KT turn everything on its head and walk away with an advantage for the Vayne lane.
Wow. The kills going away from the bottom lane is just about the only thing that Afreeca Freecs can celebrate from that fight. Of course, 2 kills ultimately going over to Bono and Sohan, but even that, I mean, Bono set behind a little bit early on. We're going to see this here again. KT doesn't get the dazzle, but Bono goes straight for Mystic, and now this causes a lot of damage down to Mystic, who's not able to respond. Jelly is pushed away, so no face breaker onto aiming to pull him closer. Now, Keen thinks he's got the jump on him, but jumps onto Bono, who's already so far behind, so he just soaks in all the damage coming in from aiming and Tucson, and now he's left to die, and Sohan juggling his health and that rage before he turns into that Mega Gnar. Just perfect timing. Would have gotten the stun too if it wasn't for the flash, and a great condemn from aiming, also tumbling out of that damage coming in from the set. Just all around, such clean play from KT, both in Game 1 and Game 2.
That was really sick as well from aiming. That was actually a condemned flash to make sure that there was no reaction available from Jelly. So really, really clean stuff. Coming down from the AD carry of KT once again as Bono in position, but no Gnar is going to land there from Sohan. Keen just sidestepping that one with ease. And I actually really like it. We've got Vayne and Gnar, and Hyper and Silverbolts have like very similar interactions with the 1-2-3 boop. And so we've got the double 1-2-3 boop champions on the same team, and I like the synergy this time around. Of course, has no effect on how this game is played whatsoever, but now that it's pretty late in the day, certain things are, making me happy when otherwise, if I was of sane mind, maybe they wouldn't.
You know, whatever floats your boat, right? Whatever is able to keep you.
Whatever gets me to the ship, as they like to say here in the LCK. As Bono's going to find Spirit. The Dazzle is going to be flashed out of there by Spirit, as you can see. But Bono, he's still going. Ragnarok has been popped. Spirit, no way to get out whatsoever. And if Bono still had flash, I think he might have just flashed under the turret there, because he just has a Viking mentality, Chobra. He just does. It's how he likes to play. He basically is Olaf in playstyle.
Love it. You love to see it. And I don't think Afreeca Freecs were expecting that aggression either. I thought they thought the fight was over. And so we didn't see Jelly or Mystic. Not that they could have really done much, right? They could have maybe tried for a trade, but it's not like they would have stopped him with that Ragnarok already on for Bono. So able to pick up another kill, and then the Drake as well. And KT slowly kicking off that engine for the gold difference once again.
Yeah, you can see up to about 1,000 at this point. Remember, their statistic before the first match was about 1,000 gold in general, ahead at 15 minutes. And that is still the case, as the Dazzle is going to land there onto Jelly, who gets silver bolted and takes a hell of a lot of damage. Damn. Aiming with a few points in that particular ability, now really starting to hurt as Bono. We're going to check out his window playstyle as he moves towards the bottom side and finds himself a Spirit.
Yeah, they were talking about if they were going to be spotted or not, and he's just, actually, we just found trouble.
And actually, they can just kill him.
My favorite is his teammates are like, no, this isn't going to work out. And then Bono's like, no, I can do it. And they're like, okay, fine, I'll come help. And they're like, oh, the kill's over. They just move out. So while the team wasn't exactly on the same page, Bono didn't need any assistance and is able to pick up a quick kill against Spirit, who, once again, I mean, Spirit played the early jungle to his advantage, right? Tried to keep Bono at bay, but that just wasn't enough.
And also, now that the Olaf picks up, you know, a kill and an assist towards that bottom lane in that exchange, it only gets worse, right? Because it really does mitigate what was a good early game, like you were talking about from Spirit. As now KT, they've started up Shelly. Rift Scuttler also here as Soan looking to try and get rid of Keen. The Q not going to land, is going to land and deters Soan from moving further forward. Good stun is going to land onto Tucson, but he isn't too worried about that one, as he does have the ability to heal himself back up. And Shelly is going to be taken here. Afreeca look like they still want to find a fight, but Soan does have Mega Gnar available, and aiming is split off from this fight now. Smashed into the wall is Keen, but he's able to get himself out. Cosmic Radiance does land. The Crush comes down on top of Spirit, and it seems really aptly named, as now Jelly finds himself the Haymaker. Nice damage onto Bono there, as Kuro's going to flash his way out. Soan not going to be so lucky, as his flash was just barely off cooldown. Not able to get out, and they do get Shelly, but they don't get anything else.
Yeah, and I think KT was confident enough, and given the state of the game, they should have been. But Afreeca Freecs, I think, just played that well. I think the most important thing was Keen goes in to initiate and kind of start the fight.
Right?
Yeah, he gets out before he dies, and the rest of the team is able to fight through. Like you mentioned, aiming nowhere near this fight is going to get zoned out. Meanwhile, we see the fight start. Ian looks like he's going down and is able to dash right across the wall with the slice and dice. And watch here as aiming actually tries to rush in, but immediately gets exhausted. So can't even duel Mystic, while Mystic now still has the opportunity to jump in with his ultimate and follow through for an extra kill onto Sohan, going over to Fly.
Yep, and this is going to put Afreeca right back into a decent position, and in fact ahead in gold by about 500. We've got 4 minutes until that inevitable time where we discover who's going to win the game. And we'll see who that's going to be, as 500 gold is certainly not a margin that's insurmountable here by KT as we draw ever closer to that moment. 11.5 minutes in means that we've still got a few minutes of these turret plates being available. One already taken by Keen, top side of the map, but his turret very, very healthy. Soan has been denied that bit of extra gold, and the game acceleration that we saw in game number one is completely different this time around. A much slower game when it comes to the positions of, you know, the turrets and also where we're moving our bottom lane, things like that. KT have been slowed down by Afreeca, and it feels like it's working out in Afreeca's favor.
Yeah, and I love that Spirit is paying a lot of attention to Fly just because they know that he's now the target. Fly's been kind of left alone in this lane, and Kuro actually moving about the map quite a bit more as well has increased that gap in CS. And then now Fly's picked up a kill and an assist, so already has that Ludens and is able to not only clear lanes, but actually deal a good amount of damage. Definitely Assassin aiming by no doubt, but some of these other champions as well are at risk.
Well, in goes Bono, looks for Jelly, has to use the Ragnarok there as there's the Void Seeker. Good knock-up from Kuro, will land, and the Dredge Line is going to follow up as well, but he's not as tanky as he wants to be. Tusa making his way in. We've got teleports from both top laners as the Dazzle does go wide, and now Sohan finds himself in amongst the entire enemy team, but it's a good hop to get himself back into a good position. The Flash Knight into the Dredge Line, and Bono locks down that first kill. It's a trade 1-for-1, but aiming his free hitting lands the Condemn onto Keen, who just slices his way over the wall, and another Void Seeker is going to land. The heals coming out from the Taric were definitely good, but a 1-for-1 is not what KT thought they were going to get. They thought they had everything on the table.
Yeah, I mean, KT definitely looked like they turned things around so well at the start of that fight. Eventually, they're going to get the teleports coming in. And actually, it looks like Afreeca Freecs initially decided to commit to a full trade. That didn't seem like such a good idea with the Herald, but the Herald did its job, got all the plates for KT, and now just that last bit left on that outer turret. Of course, Dragon's still able to go in favor of Afreeca Freecs. Looking at this replay here once again, when they catch Bono, of course they expect the Ragnarok, so they're saving the pillar. It's not perfectly placed, but Kai'Sa jumps in, and Kuro with the kind of half-predict ultimate coming in knocks up all three members. And look at the teleports here. It's actually very interesting that both top laners kind of split the way they want to go, and that actually causes the rest of the teams to split the way they're going, and so the fight actually goes on a break. A great flash forward from Sohan, but at the end of the day doesn't have the tankiness to survive, as Keen of course still had his ultimate up, coming in for an extra stun.
In the meantime, a Mystic is going down very, very low, but not going to be able to be killed just this once. Still had the Exhaust available as well. An Exhaust Ignite bottom lane here by Afreeca, just showing just the raw power of Exhaust these days. As Spirit going to take some parting shots here by aiming, but no harm, no foul. And 14.5 minutes. We got 200 gold lead for Afreeca. This is going to be close. We'll see who's going to be able to clinch it as we tick ever closer. 15 seconds. It's neck and neck. Oh my god, this might just be the closest game of all time, as we can't predict it. Okay, 300 gold. We got 7 seconds to go. 5 seconds to go. It's a 400 gold lead. 300 gold lead for Afreeca. Have they? They've won the game.
All right.
Oh man, right at the end there.
Oh,
all right. Do you want to prepare for game number 3? We can go to the bathroom now. Or something like that.
Yeah, I think we're gonna have to do that.
Yeah, it was a close game though, wasn't it? My God,
I mean, just a couple
it's back to even now, but it's 15.5 minutes. You know, like it's all over.
Oh boy, I mean, Afreeca Freecs, they have the answers. It's great that you mentioned the exhaust. Obviously, we saw it in action earlier.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to continue seeing that. I think that was entirely Mystic's plan, is to stick with aiming, kind of challenge that duel, but then exhaust, so that aiming either has to basically lose the duel or step out of the fight, whereas Mystic, of course, with that Kai'Sa, can continue chasing through and join the rest of the fight. So aiming's going to have to watch out kind of where he's entering the fight from.
Yeah, exactly right. And he has a lot of extra defensive options as far as the summoner spells chosen by KT's bottom lane, so I like the different schools of thought, and we'll see which one's going to work out more effectively as this series goes on. As now Spirit has started up Shirley, 16 minutes into this game, aiming just by himself here on the bottom side, and that is good news for KT. They just want the Vayne to power towards, especially 2 items. I think Blade of the Ruined King Rageblade is really important for the Vayne, and similarly to be said for Mystic, who will have the Neuromana transformation when he completes his Rageblade, most likely as well, which is a big power spike. And now Afreeca move towards the outer turret in the mid lane, and it looks like they are going to be able to take that one down, as KT are going to just focus their attention on making sure this Vayne gets to a good spot.
Yeah, I mean, they were already committed to that bottom side, but now we'll see if Afreeca Freecs actually continue to commit to this inner
dominance. Yeah, you can see Kuro, he clears out the minions there as Shirley is going to charge her head into the turret. Keen goes down very low though, and now Taric and the Vayne are moving forward. Spotted on multiple control wards, but now Sohan trying to find some stragglers. They're not going to be able to. Forcing this fight is dangerous here, and KT know it as they back away.
Yeah, real good patience from Afreeca Freecs, not over-committing after they've taken down the turret, they recognize the wins, they recognize that they have other members of the KT team coming up from the bottom lane, but I think KT reacting just a bit too late. I mean, staying for the turret was fine, given where the position of the map already was, but if they were able to kind of move a little bit earlier, or maybe just Tucson moving up a little bit earlier, knowing that all 5 members of Afreeca Freecs were in that mid lane, I think they could have at least continued that fight, probably not protect the turret. But alas, Afreeca Freecs now have this highway open in the mid lane, and they're able to kind of inch forward once again in the gold lead. But I think what's really going to come down to is this next Drake fight. Whoever wins that should be able to assert dominance again, just given the health of some of these turrets around the map.
Yeah, and this game is so close. 1 dragon apiece, the Mountain and the Infernal. And with the tanky boys that KT will eventually have in the Gnar, Olaf, Nautilus, and the Taric, that is actually going to be put to some use. But whoever can stack up these Ocean Drakes first is going to be feeling so damn good in these scrappy team fights that are obviously going to eventuate. You can see Afreeca with all the control of this area when it comes to the vision, and KT just looking for a way to get vision control and priority in this area. So on. Crushing his way forward. Yeah, Keen. Stuck in the back of the pit here for the moment, as it is going to be Afreeca that locked down the Rift Scuttler. Keen just slices his way over the wall, and the Phalanx is going to be resumed by Afreeca. They do have inside track, though, as it looks like KT are just prioritizing getting towards this Drake. We'll see whether Bono has his finger on the correct smite, as there's the Cosmic Radiance just used to secure the Dragon, and they get the Ocean, and now look to try and back away. Kuro tries to get the slow in there, as there's the ultimate, the showstopper from Jelly. He's going to probably bite the dust, but no, goes Golden. Kuro doing the same thing, but he's not going to be so lucky, but able to go out with that extra kill, as now Afreeca have to chase underneath this turret for the 4v4. He might be able to get priority, but they're not going to get any of the other kills.
Yeah, so ultimately Afreeca Freecs are able to balance it out with the turret. The mid lane not really going to see much of an advantage here as the minions are cleared out, but I think it was really smart. KT realized that they need to gain some other advantage from a different part of the map. They're able to focus that Drake, not give that over easily to Afreeca Freecs. And like you said, preemptively using some of their abilities to make sure it's secure. There we see Tucson going early with that Taric ultimate, just secures it as Bono's able to sit tight under that Dragon, and also saves that Ragnarok for this moment where Bono's able to get to safety. Now, it's so unfortunate that Jelly actually is not able to survive. They weren't able to burst down Kuro fast enough because Jelly was coming out of that stasis half a second later, but at the end, they still get the turret.
Yeah, nicely done by Kuro to take someone with him beforehand, but I really want to shout out Fly. This guy, like, the amazing Scat of the Week stun that he managed to get there, and also we've been hypercritical on Fly in other games, and he's really starting to perform this time around. Has his Banshee's Veil completed 3-0-1. He's the only member of any team with a bounty right now. And this Syndra is really starting to do some work. So shout outs to him. He's 40 CS in the lead as well. It's the largest CS lead I think I've ever seen Fly have in 2020. And it's a really, really nice thing to see. A breath of fresh air here for the Afreeca Freecs as he takes down the top outer turret while we're singing his praises. As someone bottom side of the map is just going to try and at least get some extra pressure somewhere on the map.
Yeah, KT is definitely the one scrambling a little bit here. I think Bono starting to kind of feel the limits of what an Olaf might be able to do as we get into the later portion, and which is unfortunate because he played that early portion so well, as his scoreline shows. Still 30 CS ahead of that Trundle as well. So it's not that Bono's necessarily done anything wrong alone, it's just that KT as a team hasn't been able to keep up as much with the pressure that Afreeca Freecs are putting on, even in this top turret. I mean, they have the top laners kind of just duking it out on the bottom side, and not too much of a worry on either side, I presume, given that everyone else is top. And they're able to put down some pressure, and it looks like they might be going for a catch in the upper jungle.
Well, we'll see what they can do. The thing that's really dangerous for KT is the fact that they have absolutely zero counter siege. Their wave clear is just awful, because Kuro has to walk all the way up to a minion wave. Vayne has zero AoE wave clear whatsoever. They don't even have emergency ultimates that they can use, apart from, I guess, maybe the Gnar ult. But I think Olaf probably has the best ranged wave clear on this KT team. And so if you're playing from behind, that is really bad news. I mean, KT want to be forcing fights and then taking turrets when there's nobody else there, because otherwise it's going to be really difficult for them to control these minion waves. And in today's meta, I don't think it's something that we've had to really talk about as much, but certainly was in the past. Like, being able to have that wave clear and have that control is important if someone's going to be stalling out these games. And you can see Afreeca are putting KT in the position where they have to defend turrets, and it's really, really hard for this team.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's been a while since we've been able to look at League of Legends and put that much emphasis on the wave clear, just because it's been so much about the other objective, actually, quite frankly, aside from the turrets, where the game's shifted. But in this one, despite KT getting that first Ocean Drake as well, Afreeca Freecs still able to put on so much pressure and stay ahead, obviously only by a little bit, but in gold, that they really shouldn't be losing control, basically, of any of the next objectives, while, of course, they still did in that first Ocean Drake. So if they're able to play the vision game out well in conjunction with the clear and the push power they have, I think Afreeca Freecs shouldn't be losing this one at 30 seconds. They're here a little bit late, in my personal opinion, but still going to be able to scare off KT enough that they now get control of the vision all around the Dragon Pit. Mystic able to put down some pressure on that bottom side as well.
Yep, and you can sorry, the Rifts, sorry, what is it? The Blast Cone?
Yeah, there you go.
That is going to be taken by Afreeca to deny KT any access over that wall, and Bono loses half of his health bar that Tarek will attempt to refill. There's now Afreeca, 3 seconds until the Drake is available, and they have full control over the area, but it looks like they're looking for a team fight beforehand. So on charging the Naba, has teleport available, and you know that KT are looking for a fight. All right, no dredge line to land there from Kuro, as the Void Seekers are softening up the members of KT. Now Soan is going to go Mega Gnar, but Mystic is going to turn up so much damage as the Gnar only lands onto Keen, and Soan has to flash to get out of the way of Mystic. Mystic redeeming himself here in game number 2 as he picks up that kill and beautifully navigates the ultimate of Soan, and that means that KT have to give up this Drake.
That was such a smart decision from Keen to just call for a pivot onto Sohan, as he realized that Sohan's already started walking down instead of teleporting. But obviously the rest of the team doesn't have teleport. Kuro does, but I mean, what's Kuro going to do trying to teleport up to the side? And watch this. I thought we were watching aiming for a second as Mystic dodges every single stun. He just stays right out of range.
Yep, and then just flashes after Sohan, and there's nothing that Sohan can do. So really, really nicely done on his first LCK Kai'Sa performance. He's building towards his Nash's Tooth too. He's very close to picking that one up. And I mean, KT, they're not out of it, right? Like, this is still a pretty close game. The Drakes are even once again at 2 apiece. And KT are looking to try and just charge their Vayne up and get him to a point where he can hard carry. But with Mystic being able to pull ahead, especially now that he's 1-0 and 3, it's getting more and more difficult for KT to regain control. But this is a much closer game than game number 1, even though it is already over, as we already illustrated.
Of course.
We need to make sure that we remember that. As Baron being looked at, but probably not wanting to be taken just yet.
I don't know if Tucson and Aiming want to wait this one out that long for their team to show up. It does look like Afreeca Freecs not identifying them hiding in that brush. So everyone's just going to back off. Now, overall, though, talking about the goal difference, despite the what seems like better movement from Afreeca Freecs, obviously the goal difference isn't that high, given the point in the game. And a lot of that, I think, again, due to just, I know you guys call it the ping-ponging of the minions back and forth in the lanes, but that's given Vayne actually a chance to continue to really power up and stay on par with Mystic. And it's not like we've seen, for instance, Fly or Kian getting so much further ahead, given the way they've been pushing lanes. So it's really just buying time for KT in a certain sense, because are you ever out of a game with a Vayne on your side? Probably not.
Yeah, that's the thing. And I mean, the teams, as far as like how they scale as well, is so similar that it's all about how they're going to be able to navigate these team fights, right? And is Mystic going to get it caught out of position again on this Kai'Sa? Probably not as easily, given the fact that you have extra maneuverability on this champion in comparison to the Varus from game number 1. But Vayne scales extraordinarily well, not to mention the fact that you've got So on there with a really game-breaking ultimate if you can land it effectively, and the Taric is very, very strong in that regard as well as Keen, looking to try and get this flank working out for them. I think the biggest difference maker right here is just Fly and how strong he is at this stage of the game as So on moving down towards this bottom side to try and crash open this inner turret, and he should be able to do so to inject some more gold into KT and possibly even out that number.
Yeah, that actually worked out so poorly for Afreeca Freecs. They already had the inner turret in mid, so unless they were going for a fight at Baron or right around that jungle, there wasn't much for Keen to do by coming ahead of time. But Afreeca Freecs already gave up on the Baron, which gave Sohan just free time to push, because there wasn't really a moment to fight. If that pillar had completely locked out Tucson, I guess he would have gotten one kill. But would that have equaled the Baron? I'm not so sure. And KT actually turned that into 2 turrets for themselves, and now they're able to clear out the vision around the Baron pit as well. So again, this game, Afreeca Freecs technically has the lead, but they're not playing like they do. And some of these flanks coming in from Keen are starting to feel a little bit more misplaced than they were in the first half of the game.
Yeah, we have to remember that Renekton is getting less and less valuable as this game goes on as well, so they really do need to get their heads back in the game. That macro play was just terrible. From Afreeca, there's no other way around it, because KT, they managed to secure the bot lane in a turret, Sohan gets there, and then as soon as they see Keen on the map, KT know that they can just move straight down the mid lane and take down that outer turret as well. So a lot more money now given over to KT, and when it's global gold like that, it means that the Vayne is getting more and more powerful. And the QSS has been completed, so no stuns to land from Fly that are going to really be impactful. And QSS against something like a Renekton diving into your backline is a really great thing to have. So now aiming with not only the barrier, not only the heal from Tucson, and of course the ultimate that has the ability to be immune to the CC and keep that damage pumping out on this Vayne. So as we go forward, it's going to be all about whether the Vayne spotting is going to be to or against aiming.
that always is the question when you have the Vayne in the game, but so far things have been looking okay. Again, I mean, aiming's Vayne hasn't had that power spike for too long, so hasn't shown any spectacular moments in team fights, hasn't really had an opportunity to, but also just hasn't been caught yet. So I think that's the silver lining. A great pillar comes down.
Yep, just going to slow off KT though. You can see that there's not too much of a commitment here on the side of the Afreeca Freecs. But they're grouped as 5, and Sohan was moving up towards top side of the map, and Afreeca still weren't able to pull the trigger. You can see now they're thinking about getting a little bit more feisty, as the orb is going to fly in, but not going to get too much damage there. This Fly is landing the CC, but they're not punishing KT as much as they possibly could be. And the Ocean Drake now, remember, soul point available for both teams. As Sohan, he can hop out of this one if he would like to, but he's not going to, as the River Ram is continuing. The Dredge line is going to miss. Very, very close, though, there from Kuro. As this mid lane... money is being lost all over the map from KT. So it was awful macro from Afreeca before, but now this is terrible from KT.
We just see gold just slipping out of this game, and it's just being wasted on the ground of the Summoner's
Like sand
Rift.
through the hourglass.
Oh my goodness. Now they're deciding, all right, well, while we're here, let's try to make sure we get something out of it. Trying to push in that top outer turret. Of course, it was just one hit away, so they're able to secure it. But Mystic actually going to go ahead and start that Drake.
Yep, so soul point should be gathered here, as Mystic well and truly able to solo out this dragon, and KT are going to do nothing while he's just stealing a very pivotal objective away. Oh my god, this it's like something's fallen out of the brains of KT in this last 5 minutes. It's not super good.
We've praised them so much for their play and how they performed themselves coming in to this. I mean, even right before the second round and coming into the second round, and suddenly they've just kind of lost sense of what they're supposed to do to win a game of League of Legends. They lose out on so many minions. The inner turret bottom lane also goes down in favor of Afreeca Freecs. They lose out on the Drake, not able to do much around the Baron. And once again, it really comes down to neither team has great range, and really the only thing that can start a fight from, I guess, extended range is Kuro, but he doesn't want to just use his ultimate first. We're actually going to see KT start the Baron.
Yeah, and it's going to go down very, very fast. I mean, Vayne does a hell of a lot of damage. You can see aiming up against the wall, just trying to reset that auto with the tumble very, very quickly as Keen pops the Dominus, looks to try and dive in. I think this is going to be the 50-50 that they're looking for, as the Cosmic Radiance will keep them alive. Vayne goes golden. It is going to be stolen away by Spirit. Keen tries to get out. He's not able to, as now Jelly finds the haymaker, but aiming is still alive and stuck at the back of this pit. A gigantic stun coming out from the Scatter the Weak, and a double kill here for Mystic, who's over the wall. Space Vayne trumps regular Vayne, as you just saw, and Afreeca rout KT and steal away their Baron.
Yeah, I mean, everything went south for KT there. They did have the Vayne, but it just wasn't quick enough. They get the Baron stolen, and then aiming wasn't really able to put down too much damage as he was zoned out towards the back of the pit, while Mystic was able to stay alive in the front of the pit and kind of choose the targets as he wishes. And that's despite Sohan trying to get a good ult to push everyone back within the Baron pit, just for aiming to feast on as that Vayne.
Yeah, and a desperation Baron isn't what you want to see from KT as well, as Bono will be kicking himself right now for not being able to secure that particular objective. You can understand what their thinking was because they had the Cosmic Radiance available, but let's have a look at this one once again and watch just as KT's hearts sank.
Well, yeah, and the great thing about Keen's play as well is that he goes in knowing that they have to focus the Baron, so he's able to survive for so much longer. Jelly also just pushes all the way and then flashes over the wall, so no kills coming out. Like you mentioned, a great Scare of the Weak of coming in from Fly, locks up the frontliner so that aiming really doesn't have any help, and eventually gets melted while Mystic finishes the fight at full health.
Yeah.
Ah, jeez, that feels terrible for KT.
Yeah, it's a huge turning point. Here is 2 minutes to go until the next Ocean Drake, and Ocean Soul is going to be huge for Afreeca as well. I just don't see a way back in for KT if they are able to secure that. But I don't know. I don't like seeing the 50-50 Baron attempts as like the Hail Mary when you were very, very close. You know, like these teams were neck and neck. You don't need to go for the coin flip of a play in that moment. As Mystic chasing away as there's Kuro in with the dredge line. Fair bit of damage does go down onto Spirit, but he does have the stopwatch to keep himself alive. There's the showstopper into the backline as the Haymaker keeps him alive for a long time, but Sohan has a big gnar in the backline. Jelly just eating up all of the space that he's looking for as Mystic into the backline, waits for his moment and obliterates KT, and this will be Afreeca evening out the series.
Wow, just really well played. That fight started with Fly getting ulted by the Nautilus from Kuro, but instantly the dredge line is blocked by Spirit, and they're just stuck on the front line of Afreeca Freecs, and all the damage comes in from both Fly and Mystic. Mystic getting a lot of redemption in that game, but Fly for sure turning things around for himself and the team.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Fly was fantastic. I think Mystic just turned on in the end of that game, though. And to have a bounce back from such an appalling performance in game number 1 to that level of play in game number 2 just shows his veterancy, right? Like, just incredible to have the mental fortitude to lock that one down. And it might be the fact that he's got wife buff and double kid buff, but I'm not entirely sure. Still, fantastic performance from him. Huge shout out to Fly as well. I think just Fly performing is such a good thing to see, right? Being able to try and silence some of the haters here.
Yeah. It's one of those things where, is that really the compliment you want to hear? Probably not, but at the same time, it's the one you needed to hear, given where they were.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. And now a deciding game between KT and Afreeca, and this is huge. Remember, this is the tiebreaker for 4th place. The winner here will move up, and the loser will move back down again. And the 6-game winning streak, it is just huge for KT to hold on to that momentum. And now, as we move further forward, it's all comes down to this game number 3. And I think this set support was just really good from Jelly in the same conversation, right? Like, this wasn't exactly the best moment for them, and I think that Sohan surviving was a bit of a tilter for Afreeca, and things started off well for KT, but the amount of time and space that Jelly bought in the later team fights was really, really good to see.
Yeah, I think Jelly, so early on, not all the fights went in favor of them, partially just because, obviously, Olaf with the Ragnarok, and you're not able to do much, but Jelly was always present whenever Afreeca Freecs were trying to do something. He also landed some really, really good ultimates as well towards the later team fights, and not only bringing a lot of that positioning, but a lot of that damage for the entire team against KT as well.
Yeah. Shout out to Keen. He actually played out this Renekton game very, very well at the same time. As, I don't know, it came down to Vayne versus Space Vayne, and Space Vayne won.
Yeah, Aiming's Vayne, again, just never really had the opportunity. Just never was given the fight that he needed to pop off.
Yeah.
Most of the important fights were done early on. And then later, it was mostly, kind of some members of KT getting caught out maybe just a little bit early. And also just so many kills being lost from aiming by just 1 or 2 hits. Even that one against Renekton. Keen's able to dash across and just not able to finish any of the kills.
Yeah, really clean stuff here from Afreeca. It was very, very close, we have to remember. But this stun coming in from Fly, just fantastic. I don't know, man. That's the difference. I mean, game number 1, Fly was a passenger. Game number 2, Fly existed. And that's just what Afreeca were looking for. As this sidestep, oh my god, so good.
Yeah, this was a great mechanical play from Mystic, and of course, just really good decision making, I think, from Keen. Again, good decision making coming in from Keen once again, going in and just drawing so much damage, and that actually buys time for the Baron to be stolen by Spirit. And once again, we see Fly all the way in the back, just making sure that he keeps his distance and gets a great stun against the frontliners, trying to come in, trying to buy time for aiming, but not going to happen. Aiming goes down in that duel against Mystic. And Mystic happily picking up several kills.
Yeah, and just watching Mystic's positioning in that fight, it was just amazing. This guy's team fighting is so incredibly good when he's on even footing with his opponent. I feel like last game he wasn't really allowed to play League of Legends, but it's probably a good thing if you're a KT fan to not have Mystic able to play League of Legends, because he does stuff like this if he's given that level of leeway.
Just a good closeout from Afreeca Freecs. Again, I think the middle portion of the game was a little worrisome for both teams, right? KT kind of lost the lead they had, and then of course Afreeca Freecs didn't seem like they were doing much with it, but actually KT gave them that opportunity with that Baron. I mean, you look at the gold difference, it's really not moving until that Baron fight happens, and then it just skyrockets.
And you have to remember that Afreeca had a 200 gold lead at 15 minutes, so of course we knew that they were already going to win.
There we go.
But still, really nice stuff there from Afreeca. They're going to even out the series, and now we're looking forward to game number 3. I don't know who's going to take it, to be honest. Is it going to be side selection that's going to reign true, or is mental fortitude and that momentum going to reign supreme? Not entirely sure. We're going to have to find out after the break. Hopefully we're going to get some Dodongas on the way there, but I don't even care. I just want more League of Legends. We'll see you after the break.